Hello you, it's me. It's been a while. Today we're going to talk about Winterset Hollow by Jonathan Edward Durham, which I picked up on recommendation from a friend and then got sent a copy by the author, which is fantastic, so thank you very much for that. I'll link their Twitter down below, make sure you follow them. I'm going to be doing plot, reviews, stuff I liked, stuff I didn't. It'll all be marked on the time bar, as usual. In this book, we follow a character called Eamon. He was sequestered as a child, growing up and living alone with his father in a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere. He was taught literature, survival skills, chess, and then one day was forced to strike out alone for civilization when his father never returned from a hunting trip, joining society as a young, slightly clueless teenager. Instrumental to his development was a book he read cover to cover again and again called Winterset Hollow. A very Rupert slash Little Bear type thing about anthropomorphic animals, the stories that surround them and their preparations for their annual feast, Barley Day. As a young adult, he takes a trip with two of his very close friends to the island home of the author of Winterset Hollow on Barley Day, in a way to reconnect with his past, with his father, and pay homage to the author that had such a big impact on the person that he turned out to be. Exploring what they had assumed would be crumbling mansion ruins, they find instead a well-kept home, a feast laid out for their expected arrival, and the animal characters from Winterset Hollow, in the flesh, preparing for their actually quite sinister Barley Day. I give a lot of points for originality, which is something I say in reviews over and over again. This is original. I've not read much else like it before in terms of content. In terms of vibe, I think it really manages to capture the essence of folk horror. A lot of things claim to be folk horror and I think really missed the mark. The market is flooded with imposters. But this gets it right, I think. This felt to me like early James Herbert, who I adore, Richard Lehman, who I'm not a huge fan of, maybe also Charles DeLint. If you haven't read Green Mantle, you should definitely go and read that. This is a lot of different genres mashed into one cake with a folk horror frosting. There's mystery solving, thriller, magical realism, kind of, fairy tale fantasy, and I've never read any book which took such a hard turn into slasher fiction and went from Alice in Wonderland to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the space of about 3 pages. This gets dark really quick, so on that front, it's kind of a roller coaster. It's odd to me reading horror that feels so British, especially when you have this stereotypical imagery of a fox in tweeds, and having to remind myself again and again that this is set in Pacific Northwest America. The US setting actually has a lot of plot relevance, but even then I had to keep reinforcing that to myself because the language and vibe of the book felt so not American. In terms of the fantasy element of the book, I was never clear how much was actually magic. You have these anthropomorphic animal characters who are the remains of ancient races, displaced, chased across the continent by humans, but it never discloses whether they're otherworldly, of spiritual origin, whether the place that they come from is somewhere that exists in this world or is somewhere else attached to this world, or whether all of these animals are from 5 or 6 sentient species that sort of evolved alongside us. I appreciate that it's open-ended and we're as blind as the main characters in that sense, but I feel like I really would have liked a lore dump. The bit of this book that I thought was most impressive was the poetry. There were these poetry passages from the fictional Winterset Hollow interspersed throughout the book, and honestly they were so well done. The ability to keep up the same energy, to adhere to the same rhythm and syllable pattern, without feeling like you're jamming a square peg into a round hole, must be very difficult, and I thought it was done incredibly well. If the author decided to publish a bind-up of just that, of just the poetry of Winterset Hollow, maybe extended all the missing bits, fleshed out into a full poetry fairy tale, it's something I would probably buy. There are twists in this book I genuinely wasn't expecting. There were things I didn't realize were mysteries until they were resolved, and then that enriched the story retrospectively. The gore is top-notch, the action is fast-paced. It's really easy to read. I don't know how I feel about the ending on a personal level, but I guess it worked well within the context of the rest of the book. Stuff I wasn't sure about. And this will be spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, go away. Moving right on from the ending, there is this underlying message of colonization and displacement of native people. humans chasing and hunting these animal folk across the continent, forcing them out of their peaceful home, and then the animals taking revenge on modern humans who didn't even know this happened. I'm not sure how much I agree with the idea of being held accountable for the sins of your ancestors that you didn't even know happened. And it made me really not able to sympathize with the animals very well. And then off the back of this colonization subtext, all the animals who are the victims die at the end. So I don't know what the conclusion, the resolution of that message was. I did think the human characters in this book are where it fell down. They don't act believably in the situations they're in. They're all very immediately accepting of everything. You've come to this island, there are animal people here living in a mansion, like entire other sentient species, and the humans are like, whoa, okay, what's for dinner? I think outside of the three main people as well, every other human's death felt like it was put in just to keep the feeling of gore and horror constant. I didn't know those humans, I knew their names, and that was it. So I really didn't care when they died, which is a shame because the death scenes themselves were really good, but I had nothing to keep me invested in them. I wasn't emotionally there. I wasn't a huge fan of Olivia, the Deus Ex Machina infodump owl. Seemed a bit too much like writer's convenience to me. I was also really disappointed that there was no payoff to this chess thing that was supposedly going on. On the island, there's this cage surrounded by chessboards, presumably where the fox was kept and made to play multiple chess games at once for the crowd's entertainment. Eamon was raised playing chess with his dad, and I really thought this was going to be some Chekhov's gun thing, which came full circle like in Lord Loss, and it was used to beat the fox at least once. But no, he just locked him in a cage and burned him. This was fun. I still had fun, despite those criticisms. I'd recommend reading it because it's probably not like anything you've read before, and I feel like, for me, this is a 3-star. So thanks for watching my review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Goodreads, which I'll link down below. And if you like sci-fi, join our Interstellar Sci-Fi Book Club, which I'll also link down below in the description as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye!